Welcome to another episode of Mental Funded Frontier Fundamentals. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the Bulletin Board, which is under the communications panel when you're docked at a spaceport or space station. And the Bulletin Board is kind of like Craigslist if you could buy slaves and put a hit on someone. There are many opportunities in here for profit and adventure. We're going to cover a number of, all of the potential missions and things you can accomplish on the Bulletin Board. So let's just go through them one by one. First one we're going to look at is charities. Now these basically are a way to improve your reputation, which allows you to get paid extra and get paid before delivery of passengers and packages. We'll cover that in a moment. Also, if you acquire a bad reputation such as delivering a package or a person late, it can help mitigate that. Also, if you're just rich and want to throw money away, be a philanthropist, Some people will advertise fairly blatant requests for certain people to be assassinated. They'll say something like retirement or biographical or even wanted for removal job. Things like we'd like someone to stop working in this system. But this requires a higher elite rating, which we don't have, so we're going to come back to these at a later time. You'll also see these missing person ads on the Bulletin Board, but I haven't found much use for them. It's sometimes a way of earning a tiny bit of extra cash if you want to look through the Bulletin Board and see if the person in question, in this case Helmut Davies, has an ad on there. Apparently, according at least by the look of this, you can also look at people in systems you've been to, the last two systems and you've been to, and tell them that you've seen them, but it's kind of tedious work for very little cash, so I don't usually bother with it. Bigger ships than this little fighter require extra crew, and you can hire them from the Bulletin Board. It's usually worth paying them in full. By the time you can afford a huge ship, it's not going to be much to pay this much every week. These questions here, have you worked on a starship before, and why do you need a job? I don't think they have any significance in their actual performance, but I'm not 100% sure. And they never seem to quit in my experience, regardless of their stated reason. Like if you were, like it says here, if you were to do repetitive cargo runs, I don't think someone would just quit their job. So anyway, this isn't relevant for us right now, so let's move on. Now, another way to make money through the Bulletin Board is to take passengers from one star system to another. Passengers are basically like cargo that complains, and you can only take them one place. They travel in as individuals or in groups of up to 7. They usually indicate on the board whether it's a small group or a large, or just a group, which is usually 6 or 7. And you need to buy extra passenger cabins for your ship, which are 5 tons of space each, and there's usually more profit in cargo. For comparison, trading 5 tons of luxury goods on the Barnard Star run that I showed before, that will be about 1100 credits profit, and 5 tons of robots on the return trip is about 1500. So unless they're offering basically that much per passenger cabin, then it's probably better just to haul cargo. And also, they expect to be there in less than a month. There's lots of stuff you can ask them, such as how many people are in the group. You can haggle over price, ask for more money, ask for payment before, and you see sometimes they agree, which is handy. Cargo never pays in advance. You can also ask why they're paying so much, and will there be any problems. Sometimes there will be. They'll pay a lot if they're in danger, and if they're paying a lot, you'll probably be attacked en route, even in Sol and other safe systems. Usually, the extra cost makes it worth it for 1 or 2 passengers. And here's an example of someone who is in danger. As you can see, he's a spy, and he's being hunted by the Emperor. Imperial agents may attack your ship if you try to transport this guy. You can use, if you've got a good reputation from previous passenger runs, they'll often pay you more if you ask, up to 10%. Well, only 10%. That's the only increase I've ever noticed, and you're more likely to get money ahead of time. They don't trust you if you haven't got a reputation, as you can see. Also, if they say they owe someone money, it's possible that they won't actually pay you when you get to your destination, so ask for the money in advance, if at all. By comparison, cargo never refuses to be sold, not even slaves. Packages work much like passengers, except that they're small and take up no actual cargo space. They're worth taking if you're on the way to the system anyway, or if it's not out of your way. They also come in the more profitable and dangerous variety, which will also get you attacked like the passengers. Some systems require you to hold a permit to enter the system, or you'll be fined. But in most cases, this isn't true. But you can get a permit from anyone asking you to deliver to that system, and that's the only way you can get such a permit. The black market is also to be found on the bulletin board, but we'll come to this later in the episode when we will do some smuggling. If certain goods are out of stock, some people will pay double the stock market value. This is often the case with robots and computers in Sol, and is a handy way to make quite a bit of extra profit on cargo runs. The military, in this case the federal military, there is also the Imperial Navy in the southern systems. They offer various mission types, but you need to get to a higher rank to be able to do the more interesting ones. All you can do now is the delivery of packages like the civilian deliveries. The only difference, one of the only differences is the strict time limit. Late delivery means possible demotion if you have a rank, and no payment. Also, they will not negotiate over payment terms. In this case, they want us to go to Ross 128, which requires a permit, but the military don't give out permits, so in this case you will need to get a permit from a civilian passenger or package deliverer person. So I've decided to take on the package delivery for Ross 128, but in order to do that, I needed to find someone who was offering a permit for that system. And in this case, I found Daisy O'Connor. And if I simply ask her if I need a permit, she will arrange one. You do have to ask in order for them to do that, otherwise they won't. And this is just a normal package, so there won't be any problems with this. And just click OK, and we have a contract and a package. Now let's look at Ross 128 on our system map down here. It's just to the southeast, in galactic terms at least. Here it is, Ross 128. Now the reason it needs a permit is because it's a federal prison colony, and as such it rarely has any pirates, if any at all. Probably since the last system a pirate wants to be in is one with a prison planet. So it should be safe enough to go there without getting into weapons and combat just yet. Next episode, I promise. But it's a good idea to save anyway. Now, since we're going there, let's look at the imports and exports. And as you can see, because it's a prison planet, they're not really exporting anything. But good thing that slavery is illegal there, otherwise we'd have a bit of a conflict of interest with all these prisoners sitting around. Anyway, one of the imports is liquor and narcotics. I think that's understandable. But since liquor is one of the exports of Sol, we can buy that and make a profit in Ross 128. So let's buy some liquor from the stock market, much as we can afford, but leave 1 ton free of space for a ton of hydrogen fuel. Now you can have a look at the list of packages that you have by clicking on the 3 icon or pressing F3, and clicking on it cycles through. And one display that wasn't here before is this passenger and small items roster, and you can see the client, the number of people in the group, or whether it's a parcel, the destination, and the amount that you're going to be paid. So let's launch. I'm currently in Moscow because that's where I had to go to find these the woman with the necessary permit. So let's launch. Sure you're familiar with this by now. And we have a course set for Ross 128. And once we're at about 12,000 meters, we'll be able to hyperspace. And that's what hyperspace looks like in reverse. So let's just set a course for the inhabited planet in this system, Grant's Claim. Zoom in and lock on to Matthews, the subterranean prison colony. Engage the autopilot, and I'll see you when we get there. Now, this is a planet without an atmosphere, and as such the spaceport is underground. Let's go into the external view and have a look at it. You can see all the there's a few like habitation domes around, because no one's going to be living on the outside of this place. And you can see this kind of portal below where we're descending into with the help of the autopilot. And you can watch this, or you can just speed up time. Usually level 3 would be sufficient, so. But let's watch it for this, just one occasion. I quite like the flat shaded appearance of the graphics in this game. Much more preferable to the ugly textures of early 3D, I think. Pressure suits must be worn at all times or your head will explode. Actually, that doesn't happen. It's a bit of a sci-fi myth. Because there's, what happens is that any fluid on your tongue and your eyes will boil, but your head won't explode. You'll just suffocate. You won't even freeze to death because you can't transfer any heat to a vacuum. There's no, very little matter there to absorb your heat from, so that's another bit of sci-fi conceit. So now we're at Matthews, and let's look at the passenger list. And it takes a little while for the packages to actually be collected, like a few seconds, as you can see. And here, as that propped up briefly, we have been promoted to private by the federal military. So let's have a look here, and we can see federal rank private. Yay! See, the military rewards acts of bravery like that, delivering packages to harmless systems. So yeah, and also we earned a bit more cash. And speaking of cash, let's sell this booze to the thirsty prison guards. I'm sure the prisoners won't be getting any of that. Now, as I noted before, this system has no exports. So what do we buy here to trade on our return journey to Sol? Well, we can make some money if we're willing to get our hands a little dirty. As you can see, the illegal goods list here is rather shorter than it is in Sol. As you can see, narcotics and animal skins are nowhere to be found on this list, but they are on the illegal goods list in Sol. Now, even though narcotics is an import in ROS 128, it's still cheaper. The price is still higher in Sol because it's a black market item. All black market items are double the what would be the stock market price if they were legal. So let's go to the stock market, buy 1 ton of narcotics, which is all they have available and all we can afford. If we buy 3 tons of animal skins as well, leaving us with barely enough to buy a ton of hydrogen fuel for the return trip. So, we haven't managed to fill our cargo hold entirely, but we've spent all our money, so it should be a profitable enterprise. Now let's, leaving an underground spaceport is like halfway between a space station and a spaceport. As you can see, it sort of ejects you out like a space station, but then you launch straight up like a like from a planet, which is of course what this is. And if we look behind us, we can see the sort of iris of the port closing there, which I think looks pretty cool. So we have our course set for Sol, and let's engage the hyperdrive. And I'm going to set a course for where I live, London, roughly, and set up the autopilot, and I'll see you when we get there. Now here I am descending to London, and they will scan my ship at random. They scan ships at random when for illegal goods, and you can save before docking or landing and reload if you get caught. It's a bit cheap, but it's up to you. You can see a nice little Lion transport there in the docking bay 6 there. Pretty cool. We'll get into talking about all the other ships you can buy when we actually have the money to buy them. Nice view of the city here. It's quite different than I know it though. Where's the London Eye? I don't see it. Ooh, bit of land glitching there. It seems to happen more when I do these videos than I actually see in the game. Anyway. Now it seems we've been caught smuggling illegal goods. Naughty. As you can see here under our criminal record, we've been smuggling illegal goods. So, let's go to the shipyard where the police hang out and have a chat with them. Now, Sergeant Bradley, you don't tolerate crime anymore. Now you can say some stupid shit like, I didn't do it, but that will increase the fine. They fine you for being stupid in the future. You can say you didn't realise it was illegal, but ignorance is no excuse in the eyes of the law. Or, with no subtlety whatsoever, you can attempt to bribe them. If you're going to do this, it's always worth offering the highest possible bribe, 250 credits, since it's much cheaper than most of the fines you'll be dealing with. And if they refuse, it'll increase your fine and put attempted bribery on your criminal record. The record doesn't seem to affect anything other than just a list of all the naughty things you've done. Now, of course, we can't afford this fine, so the only way we're going to afford it is by trading these illegal goods. Hang up and go to the bulletin board and hope that there's a person willing to buy our dodgy merchandise. So, Brett's Exchange. Highest prices paid for items interesting or otherwise. How subtle they are. Yes. And let's see if this blue-haired individual is trustworthy. Let's try to sell him some narcotics. And because some of these are in fact police traps, police entrapment traps, they will lead to, if this was a police trap, the police would pop up right now and say, I am Officer Clever Bastard, and you have been caught trading narcotics and animal skins and battle weapons and so forth, and they will increase your fine. Now there are some ways to figure out which ones are the genuine ones. The real merchants, the real black marketeers, will always have the same name, so you'll come back to the system again and again and keep seeing the same advert for say Brett's Exchange or something else. But the police traps always change their name, so that's one way to tell. Also, these adverts aren't always on the bulletin board of the spaceport you go to, so you might have to risk being caught again by going to another station or port. Obviously, this display is much like the stock market, but you can see the vastly greater prices for these items than they were in ROS 128. And as you can see, since smuggling is so profitable, paying the fines becomes just part of the cost of doing business. There's a lesson in law enforcement, if you ask me. Now, if you are in a situation where you couldn't pay, you couldn't sell your stuff, and they had only a few credits, and the police would confiscate your ship by midnight if you couldn't pay the fine, which of course you couldn't, it's worth going to an open spaceport, like this one. Because if we do that, we can simply launch without permission. Now, I can afford to pay this fine, but just to show you, let's break the law. Launching without clearance cannot be tolerated. Evading of payment of fine cannot be tolerated. Yeah. They're not fucking joking. The police vipers have come out and have started shooting at me. Now that's what I call robust policing. Now of course we have no weapons. I'm going to put the annotations on so we can see. Now you can take evasive manoeuvres. The traffic control is still complaining at me even though I'm being shot at. You can see those beam lasers zeroing in on me. Seems the police are a lot more willing to use force in the 33rd century than in modern times. So this seems like a good time to bring up combat. As you can see, I'm being damaged. Let's just let the inevitable come. You can get a nice look at the shape of England there. It's kind of wrong, but you can also see Europe off in the distance there. And there you can see my ship exploding to death. And they keep firing, of course. Why not? And as you see, here is the game over screen. So, as I said, this seems like a good point to move on to combat, which we will deal with in the next episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you out there.